A man once chose a path most people would never even consider. Not for fame, not for shock value. He spent months listening, really, listening to hundreds of women who had seen men at their most unguarded. Over 400 conversations. No judgment. No curiosity for scandal. Only one question drove him forward. What makes a man quietly lose his worth in a woman's perception? What he uncovered wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. And that's exactly why it was terrifying. Most men think attraction dies because of one visible error. A wrong message. A failed date. A sentence that landed poorly. But the truth is far colder. Value rarely collapses with noise. It dissolves in silence. Slowly. Subtly. So subtly that by the time a man realizes something has shifted, it's already over. She doesn't argue. She doesn't explain. She simply looks at him differently. And he never understands when it happened. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Effort doesn't save you. Emotional investment doesn't protect you. Being available doesn't preserve desire. When the wrong signals are sent, attraction doesn't fade gradually. It shuts down. Immediately. And the cruelest part? She often can't explain it herself. Her body reacts before her mind can form words. Anyone who studied power would recognize this instantly. Loss of influence doesn't come from catastrophic defeat. It comes from tiny leaks that reveal weakness. And the moment a man begins acting from fear of losing, fear of not being chosen, he has already started to fall. This is not content for the man who wants approval. It's for the man who wants clarity. Because desire, like authority, isn't fair. It isn't moral. It isn't logical. It's biological. And those who ignore the invisible rules are removed without warning or explanation. Today is not about how to make a woman want you. It's about understanding which behaviors quietly erase your value, even when you believe you're doing everything right. Because the real threat isn't your appearance. It isn't your income. It isn't your status. The real threat is what you communicate without realizing it. And if you're willing to face that truth without emotional anesthesia, by the end of this video you'll understand something very few men ever grasp. How value is lost and how it can be preserved. Most men don't lose worth at the moment of rejection. They lose it long before that. In small gestures. In poorly handled pauses. In subtle signs of inner instability. They lose it when they stop being a source of tension and become emotional observers. One of the fastest ways value disappears is early emotional flooding. Excessive interest too soon doesn't register as affection. It registers as scarcity of options. At a biological level, desire doesn't respond to abundance of attention. It responds to selectivity. To what feels chosen, not desperate. Another silent error is over-availability. Instant replies. Cancelled plans. Rearranging life to match her schedule. Each act sends a message beneath the surface. Nothing in my world outranks you. It sounds romantic. It feels selfless. But it quietly signals a lack of direction and perceived. Directionlessness kills attraction. And then there's the most destructive behavior of all. Seeking reassurance. Asking if she likes you. Fishing for confirmation. Reacting anxiously to shifts in attention. That energy cannot be hidden. And when your presence says, I need you to choose me, desire collapses. Power is never requested. It's projected. And when a man operates from insecurity, every word he speaks, no matter how reasonable, loses weight. Because value is never argued into existence. It's felt through presence. Through posture. Through control. Loss of value doesn't always look like rejection. Sometimes it shows up as distance. Laughter fades. Response is slow. Interest cools. Small changes you can't quite interpret, but they destabilize you. And then you commit the fatal error. You try to compensate. More messages. More effort. More attention. But that effort proves one thing. You're chasing something. That's already evaporating. She doesn't need to say it. She won't. Her tone already has. Here's the core truth. Desire is not negotiable. You cannot reason it back. You cannot plead it alive. You can only understand what ignites it and what extinguishes it. What ignites it is centered presence, emotional independence, inner stability. What kills it is need, anxiety, dependency, lack of internal structure. This has nothing to do with acting tough or playing roles. It's about genuine internal control. Because once you lose your center, the dynamic is already over, and most men don't even realize when that moment happens. Think back. A woman was warm, interested, engaged, then suddenly distant. No explanation, no drama. That wasn't randomness. Somewhere along the way, signals were sent that lowered your perceived value. Nonverbal language does most of the talking. Voice tone, eye movement, nervous laughter, collapsed posture. All of it communicates faster than words ever could. And the limbic system reads it instantly. A man who constantly adapts himself to her reactions stops being magnetic. He becomes functional, safe, comfortable, appreciated but not desired. She may value his presence, trust him, even rely on him emotionally, and still never feel drawn to him physically. Respect comes before desire, always, and respect is born from contained strength. From a man who does not emotionally collapse when faced with uncertainty. From someone whose stability does not depend on external approval. This pattern didn't only appear in dating. In one of the most revealing social studies ever conducted, researchers observed men in environments where desire was supposedly irrelevant, where intimacy was transactional. Even there, differences emerged. Some men were treated differently, not because they paid more, not because they looked better, but because they carried themselves differently. Calm presence, unrushed movements, eye contact without need, silence without discomfort. They didn't seek validation. They didn't explain themselves. Their presence alone carried weight. Women trained to detach emotionally still reacted, still felt tension, still responded instinctively, not logically, viscerally. The men who tried hardest to impress created the least impact. The ones who needed nothing were the ones who altered the atmosphere. That reveals a brutal truth: desire does not reward effort. It rewards perceived power. And power in this context is not dominance over others. It's mastery over self. Before a word is spoken, evaluation has already happened. Not consciously, not morally, but biologically. Posture, breathing, stillness, pace, these signals precede language. And your body never lies. It communicates what you believe, not what you want to project. You cannot fake this for long. Techniques collapse under pressure. Masks fail. Only genuine internal structure holds. When that structure weakens, attraction cools. Not with confrontation, but with withdrawal. Messages shorten. Interest fades. Presence disappears. And most men misread this as a communication issue when it's actually a perception shift. Trying harder only accelerates the loss. The answer is not pursuit. It's recalibration. Not empty silence, but silence with direction. Silence with discipline. Silence backed by forward motion. Rebuilding value isn't about winning someone back. It's about reclaiming what was surrendered internally. True recovery begins when a man stops needing to be chosen. When his worth no longer depends on attention. When his life has weight beyond validation. If she returns, it will be because she perceives something new, something undeniable. If she doesn't, it no longer matters. Because the transformation was never for her. It was for you. Value is not restored through nostalgia. It's rebuilt through visible change, through congruence, through presence. The most compelling men don't announce their evolution. They embody it. And embodiment speaks louder than any explanation ever could. Desire is not requested. It's provoked. Respect is not begged for. It's felt. And the man who understands this never again loses himself chasing approval. He becomes the source. He becomes centered. He becomes impossible to ignore. If this resonated, stay with the channel. There are more hidden dynamics to uncover. Share this with someone who's still searching for answers in the wrong places. And remember, perfection isn't required, only presence. Because what you project in silence determines everything.